Well, good evening, members. Before I open the meeting, please can I ask any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device to mute it to avoid feedback? And could I ask any remote participants to keep their camera and microphone off unless they wish to speak? And ideally, do not use a camera facility at all, as this can affect the quality of the IT connection. Please note the meeting will be recorded and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. Members accessing the meeting remotely should use their Swilborough Council or Kent County Council laptop to participate virtually. If you join using the link on the website or on a mobile and tablet device, it is not possible to identify you and you will not be recorded as being in remote attendance. Could I remind members to speak loudly and clearly into their microphones and to switch their microphone off after speaking, otherwise remote participants may be unable to hear the next speaker. So welcome everyone to this Policy and Resources Committee meeting, including visiting members, attending remotely and members of the public. I just welcome Chief Executive, who's joining us remotely, Director of Resources, Lisa Fillery, joining in person, Head of Finance and Procurement, Claire Stanbury, Head of Place, Joanne Johnson, Head of Audit, Catherine Woodward, Head of Housing and Communities, Charlotte Hudson, Strategic Policy and Communities Manager, Steph Curtis, Licensing Team Manager, Joe Thomas, joining us remotely, Planning Manager Policy, Natalie Earle, Principal Planning Officer, Anna Stoner, and Service Improvement and Project Manager, Andrew Bowen. Our Information Governance Manager and Data Protection Officer, Kirsty Lee Parker, is joining us remotely. And we have our Democratic Services Officer, Philippa Richardson, in the chamber. And of course, our Legal Officer, the name's gone. That is okay. Robin Harris. Sorry. Thank you. There is no fire drill planned, and if the alarm sounds, those in attendance should leave via the exits indicated and assemble outside where directed. Do not use a lift, and please ask for any of those that need assistance to make themselves known to me now, please. Okay, thank you. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Charles Gibson, who is substituted by Councillor Hannah Perkin. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, could I ask for your approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of September 2025, minute numbers 284 to 301, so that can stand as a correct record, please. Thank you. Members, are there any declarations of interest? Thank you very much. Move on to item 5. There are no updates relating to the items to note. Could I ask if there are any members who wish to make any comments on the items that have previously been considered or due to be considered by the service committees? There's a no, thank you. And items this evening for noting are the following 2 items, which is the Swirl Joint Transportation Board meeting held on the 6th of October 2025, and the Forward Decisions Plan, which again is for noting only. Can we note that? Councillor Worcester.
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to ask a question. One of the items on this evening's agenda is about boundary review, talks about halfway potentially being a parish, establishment of the halfway parish. Would you be expecting parish councillors from, part of that might be about halfway being accepted into the Minster ward or potentially being accepted into the Shinnes ward or Queenborough ward. Would you be expecting parish councillors to make that declaration there or not? Apologies if that's the inappropriate question. Thank you.
Frankly, no. Thank you. Right, we now move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is the risk management update.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So the half-year risk management report, agenda item 8. For the purposes of this report, the committee are asked to consider the council's corporate risks and overall risk profile to gain assurances that these risks are being appropriately managed. To support this, the report provides an update on risk management covering quarter 1 and quarter 2. It starts on page 11 of your agenda pack, with the main content starting on page 15. The last report was presented to this committee in March 25, and it reflected the changes to the formatting that had been based on feedback from members and officers, and those changes included the creation of a dashboard to show all risk matrices on a single page, which you can see on page 17, a summary narrative on the main changes over the last 2 quarters, and a table to show the movement of changes at the end of each quarter, which is on page 29. So turning to the content of the report, page 16 sets out standard information regarding the Council's risk register, including relevant extracts from the risk management framework, and supports how risks are assessed. Page 17 shows the latest position on the Council's corporate risks, as well as an overview of operational risks. The last time the report was collated, there were 15 corporate risks. This has reduced since the last report in March, but an additional risk has also been included in here, which is regarding the impact of local government reorganisation. This aligns with similar approaches to other local authorities, and details of this risk are included on pages 22 and 23 of the Corporate Risk Register. In terms of operational risks, there are 109 risks on the register. This has reduced since the last report. There have been some significant reviews across all of the Mid-Kent shared services, which has reduced this overall number. So both corporate and operational risks are routinely updated by risk owners and reported and monitored by the senior management team here at Swale every quarter, and this process will continue into the financial year. The risk management framework was refreshed earlier this year and presented to the audit committee, which was approved in April 25. The next steps we are considering is a review of the current risk register with both officers and members present to ensure that the current risks are still relevant and reflective of the current landscape. This is planned to take place in early 26, and details will be circulated in due course. This update also includes details on the progress of implementing planned controls, which can be seen on the risk register, which is from pages 19 to 28, and Appendix 3 from page 29 onwards shows the changes to the corporate risks over each quarter. I'm happy to take any questions if members have any.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for report. I've got a few just questions, all on Appendix 2 for clarification. Do you want me to go through all? I think I've got 4, Chair. 4 or 5. The first one is on my page 19, page 1 of 10. Balancing the budget over the medium term. I presume this is a typo, but under the controls planned, the last one says to deliver a balanced budget for 23-24. Slightly missed the target on that one. Yeah, done that. I presume that is just a typo. On a more serious note, and on the next page 3, the increases in homelessness. Now, I don't know whether this should be here, but I'm going to raise it anyway. I'm glad the chair of the housing committee is here. They were meeting last week. There was concerns rightly raised, also still or highlighted about sweep. Should that need to be invoked during the winter months? But there's no mention, and I don't know whether it should be mentioned in here or not. And if it should, I couldn't see it in there because it is something which would have potentially a wide-ranging impact on the council should the worst scenario arise, which, touch wood, doesn't happen. Sorry, I have jumped one actually. On page 2, the cyber attack element to this, we have really seen over the course of this year massive companies getting hit, and that continues. We are no different, I think, in terms of our risk. So I can see it is in red. I would have hoped to see, and I'm looking at the controls planned, there's not much in terms of the enhanced backup protection, etc. There doesn't seem to be much actually going on there to actually reinforce our defences, so to speak, to try and reduce the potential of that. Because when you have huge companies that have been getting hacked, we haven't got the resources that they have, so we are still potentially at risk. Another one, actually no, I have got another two. The local government review has the programme lead officer been allocated, and it also says about a project officer to be recruited. More so, has that been done? I'm getting a nod from Lisa on that. Thank you. That's an easy one. And my last one, Mr. Chairman, is on page, I've got 8, I think, of 10. And again, just for clarification, it's on housing supply. The risk of the council unable to deliver a 5-year housing supply, and it's a medium mitigated score. I think it looks like it's medium. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, we've not had a 5-year housing supply for quite some time. So should that risk be somewhat higher if we're not actually achieving that? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to respond? Thank you.
So going in order, yes, I will update I'll work with Lisa and we will update the 23-24 anomaly on the plans controlled. Regarding sweep, I'll take that back to the risk owner just to ensure that that's reflected and can be... Sorry, other end of the room. So if you want to come in on that one, Charlotte, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, happy to. So obviously these are the sort of corporate strategic risks, and the sort of an increase in homelessness and the mitigations around that obviously are within this risk. I would include SWEP as part of that wider service delivery. So a lot of the controls are the same in terms of minimising the number of rough sleepers we have anyway, and looking at prevention measures and multi-agency support. So it's not explicit in here, and obviously that's something I can take away and review to see if we do include it there. Definitely it would more fall within the operational risks as well. So can certainly take that away, particularly for this winter, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. In relation to the cyber risk that you mentioned, just for your information, on the movement table, which is on page 29, over the last 2 quarters, we have actually increased this cyber risk because it was showing in amber, and we are now back at red, given obviously some of the issues and things around cyber control. One of the things that I will say that's ongoing at the moment within the IT team is we have just received accreditation for Cyber Essentials, or we've got a couple more bits so that we are fully accredited in terms of the Cyber Essentials as a planned control that's in place. And that's something that adds a significant amount of weight, and they do a massive amount of work in that around the back office and the professioning and some of the items that you mentioned in there, which I believe is mentioned in this risk as well. So that does kind of cover off for some of your concerns that you'd raised at that point. It is one that is continually assessed, and given the volatility of that topic, I was at an auditing conference today, and cyber came up, and every time we talk about risk, cyber is the top risk that comes up. So that is one that is very, very high on the authorities' agenda. So we'll continue to keep that in focus as much as we can. LGR, yes, I'll get those updated, but yes, those 2 posts have been recruited too. And in terms of the housing supply, would Joanne like to come in? Sorry.
Happy to. I haven't got a mic. It's not the risk of not having a 5-year housing land supply, because that's...
Sorry, nobody at home will be able to hear this, or online, or the recording.
Forward. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I was saying I think we probably need to reword that, because it's not the risk of not having a 5-year housing land supply, because that is the actual case that has happened. It's the risks inherent in not having the 5-year housing land supply and what that exposes us to. So I think rewording that is probably the key to making the assessment of the risk more accurate. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for all those. So I presume that will then go back through to the relevant working group committee XF for the next update. Fine. Thank you.
Councillor Baldock.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to... First on the IT, I hope we're not going to spend a fortune on introducing biometrics when we're going to not be here long enough to biometricise them. But more importantly, the funding capital spend. Generation of capital receipts through selling assets, target complete 0%. This is something we've been pushing for ages, trying to raise money by selling things. And it's disappointing to see 18 months down the line after this was first mentioned, but we have got
What
zero.
page are you on?
It's page 21.
Thank you.
And on that as well, working more closely with commercial tenants.
I think these present.
Who zapped me? Working more closely with commercial tenants, 0%. These were things that we said were important last year to help this year's budget. So to see both of them at 0% is a little worrying.
I don't think I filled the percentages incorrectly on the capital spend one, because we have sold at least one asset this year, if not two.
Definitely one's complete, one through.
So, but there is not necessarily a direct plan that we can measure the completion against. It's as the assets are assessed as being ready for sale or applicable for sale, and so I think we need to look at how that target is measured as well, because that's not a 0%. Apologies.
That makes sense, thank you. And the commercial tenants?
Again, that's part of an ongoing piece of work where we are rent reviews as and when they come up. We are, in a lot of cases, tied to the leases that we are inherently inherited. That doesn't make sense, but and so we, as and when we can, change the lease arrangements where we don't just need the explicit consent of the tenant, who is obviously never going to do that. But it's a work in progress as and when we are able to either change properties, change tenants, or relet.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's not a 0% really then. And the final one was the introduction of a statement of common ground process for major development sites, which Lisa doesn't have to answer. But I would have thought we would be a bit further along that project than 5%, just getting a statement of common ground.
Thank you. Apologies. So this was in response to an appeal decision which challenged the way we'd been calculating our 5-year housing land supply. So it's not about necessarily having statements of common ground. It's about the process to make those suitably robust, that we're able to then count that as evidence towards the 5-year housing land supply. It probably should be slightly higher than 5%, probably a little bit cautious on that, but we haven't got an agreed output that we are able to use as evidence. So I suppose it's indicating that we're not at the outcome stage yet.
Okay, what's very clear is that we've set targets with no definition of how to achieve them. Maybe it needs to be looked at what we've set and actually get it back in a measurable format, because it seems a bit unfair that you've got targets, you don't know what you're aiming at, and you can't deliver.
Thank you. Councillor Gold, please.
Sorry, did Catherine Wood want to come back on that last comment? through you, Chair. I mean.
Of course.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think it's a valid point in terms of the targets and the measurables, and I think that's one of the reasons that we do want to have the review that's coming up to make sure that what's in it is correct, accurate and achievable and measurable as well.
Thank you. Going just back to the homelessness situation, one of the things that was mentioned at the Housing Communities Committee was the inability, or the fact that we've not been able to secure a night shelter provision for this year. I was wondering whether where that featured in the risk register, because I thought that would increase the risk. The fact that we haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. So that's sort of been an emerging issue for this year and is quite new. So I suppose in terms of, because these were the strategic risks, I definitely saw that as an operational risk. Whether that does need to be escalated to here, we can certainly take that away as part of the review. But we're kind of there. We are planning, as mentioned, at the Housing, Health and Communities Committee. We're already working on provision for a night shelter for next year, so there isn't this year only, hopefully, problem that we can secure it. So I have viewed it as more as an operational risk than the strategic risk, which is what's here.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else indicating, so could I have a proposer for the recommendation? Councillor Baldock, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Bowen, thank you. Those in favour? That's unanimous, members. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 9 now, which is the Good Causes Lottery Anti-Money Laundering Policy Review.
Thank you, Chair. As part of setting up the Good Causes Community Lottery in 2024, we needed to apply to the Gambling Commission for an operator's licence. A series of policies were required to be in place to demonstrate that as a council we could safely and effectively manage said lottery. This included the need to have in place a lottery-specific anti-money laundering, proceeds of crime and terrorist financing policy, and that it needed to be annually reviewed. The policy was originally developed with support from our contracted external lottery management company, and was based around best practice from other local authorities all running good causes lotteries. And it was the first version of this policy was agreed by this committee in November last year. As already said, part of the requirement by the Gambling Commission for our operator's licence was an annual review of this policy to take place. So that's what this report is presenting to you tonight. No amendments have been made to the policy as it was felt to still be compliant with all required legislation and has met the operational needs for the lottery to date. So this committee is therefore asked to approve this revised Good Causes Lottery Anti-Money Laundering Policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock, please.
We have to do this. We agreed it last year. I can see no reason for that to change, so I'm happy to move a recommendation.
Thank you. I've got proposal and seconder. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, members. There'll just be a minor interlude whilst Councillor Baldock swims off for some cloths.
Do we need to add to the risk register of council?
Okay, members, we'll move on then to agenda item 10. And this is the Good Causes Lottery Operators Gambling Policy Review.
Okay, so again, as explained with the previous item, as part of our Gambling Commission operators licence requirements, policies that we have in place must be reviewed annually to show that we're running the lottery in a safe manner. So this included a specific gambling policy linked to how we will run the Good Causes Lottery. And again, as with the previous one, it was originally developed last year based upon best practice with support from our external lottery management company. And again, it's been annually reviewed. It's been reviewed as part of its annual review and was felt to still meet the needs of the lottery with no updated legislation, so no amendments have been made. So again, this committee is asked to approve this refreshed operators gambling policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Worcester.
Thank you, Chair. As with the other policy, I was just going to mention that with policies, it's good to go with obviously what's recommended. There's nothing wrong with this policy whatsoever, except for the fact that Part 15, failure to comply, to me it read that there was a little bit missing in terms of self-reporting and giving people the opportunity to come forward voluntarily for training or updates and things like that. So, and also the ability in both of those policies to support this Good Cause Lottery. I feel that the whistleblowing policy should be attached at least to the online copy, so that, for instance, even people at the very top, there is a way of appropriately reporting for everybody, so that we are not just doing what we should do, we're actually following best practice, if that makes sense. And that was my only comment with regards to both policies. Great documents, thank you.
Thank you. Steph, did you want to comment on that?
So yeah, I'm happy to make those amendments if the committee's happy for those amendments to be made.
Yep.
Do we need to do an amendment, Chair? Or
Yeah, do you want to propose it formally?
yes, please. I'd like to propose.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder?
Thank you.
Councillor Bowen, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Did we have a record of the wording, Philippa? Someone? Right. Could you just do a nice and slowly, because there'll be steam coming off Philippa's pen as she writes it down, please, Councillor Worcester.
Yes, just to add the whistleblowing policy, at least on the online copy, to make sure that we are not just doing what is needed, but going above and beyond to make sure that we're covering all eventualities. And I believe the whistleblowing policy would support that movement. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got your proposals, seconded by Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Just on that, Chairman, happy with the proposal. I would add, or suggest it might be worth adding in terms of the terminology going forward. Actually, we've got the general gist, but can we delegate it to the officer to actually come up with the wording based on the recommendation that actually meets the requirements of the paper?
Yes, that sounds amazing. Thank you, Councillor Bowen.
Good.
I'm going to put that in my back pocket for the next time. Thank you.
So, members, those in favour of the amendment? Yeah. Thank you very much. And Councillor Baldock.
Happy to second Councillor Worcester's proposal for this policy.
Yeah, righty-ho. Those in favour? Any against? That's unanimous anyway. Thank you very much, members. Right, we move on to item 11. And I'll just say on this one, a slight amendment to what we've been asked to do. So at the moment it reads that members are asked to note the Licensing Committee decision to endorse the revised statement of licensing policy under the Licensing Act 2023, so that it can be presented to Council on the 10th of December 2025 with a recommendation for adoption. And we just need to amend that to say the committee is asked to note the Licensing Committee decision to endorse the revised statement of the licensing policy under the Licensing Act 2003 and to recommend the policy to Council for adoption. Councillor Baldock, please.
Happy to move the amendment and propose the recommendation.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Wise. Those in favour? That's unanimous again, members. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 12, which is the local plan review statement of community involvement consultation feedback.
Thank you, Chair, members. The Statement of Community Involvement, the SCI, is a statutory document that sets out how the community can get involved in local planning matters. SCIs should be reviewed every 5 years. The current SCI was adopted in 2018 and updated in 2021. With the local plan consultations coming up in 2026, it was felt a good time to update the SCI to make sure it was fit for purpose. As such, a draft was taken to the Planning and Transportation Policy Working Group and Policy and Resources Committee in September and October 2024, respectively, and a public consultation was begun in May 2025. The results of the public consultation were reported to Planning and Transportation Policy Working Group on the 16th of September. The development of the SCI has been an iterative process and has responded to feedback at all stages. Following the initial draft, it has been updated further to PTPWG and P&R committee meetings in autumn last year and prior to the public consultation in early summer of this year. Again after the public consultation and again after the PTPWG meeting in September. The appendices to this report set out the consultation responses and the changes made. Further to this extensive consultation and the subsequent changes to the SCI, the proposal is that the Statement of Community Involvement, as set out in Appendix 3, is recommended to full council for adoption. Thank you, Chair, and obviously happy to take questions.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PTP made a number of requests. This is councillors making requests, and a lot of it was because obviously the councillors didn't know or fully understand the comments that were already within it. But some of these proposals, I think, have been brushed aside a little unfairly. So number 10, there should be an obligation on officers to inform ward members and parish councillors when a major application is coming forward. Now, we know that we get the weekly list of planning applications. I think what we're talking about here was pre-apps. When there's a big application, should the ward members be informed, even at a pre-application stage, or be invited to comment? And also, the weekly circulation, it can be months before that decision is actually going forward. So I think that's a little bit of a brush off, that the weekly list of planning applications isn't satisfactory to meet what we was raising at the PTP. So I'd like to see something about pre-apps or some clarity or involvement of ward members. And on 723, that's para 723 on the same box, it sets out the council may notify town and parish councils. I think that should be the council will notify, so there's no uncertainty there. So I'd like to propose that amendment. And the other one that I think needs to be looked at a bit. There's a lot of stuff here that says it's a procedural matter, not a matter for the SCI. I'm a bit dubious on that, but okay. What is being done to meet members' concerns of a procedural matter? There were a lot of issues that were brought up. Now, I can accept they're not directly relevant to the statement of common interest or whatever we're calling it. But we still have a load of issues, therefore, that we need to take further, because this came from councillors. There were concerns raised by councillors. We can't just dismiss them as procedural matters and have no avenue or strategy to discuss them as procedural matters. So I'd just like to propose that we do have a way of pursuing those concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I have a second for my change to the power 7.23. I was hoping Councillor Speed would.
I'm very happy to second that one, yes.
Members, you heard that amendment. Those in favour? Oh, I apologise. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Chair. I vaguely recall this conversation from previously. If I were a developer and I was paying to have discussions with officers because I'm thinking of putting a planning application in and this is what I'm thinking, blah, 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 and I'm paying for your advice, I'm not sure that I would be comfortable with it, you know, going out on the website or to put it, you know, put it out there. I thought the very nature of these pre-app discussions was so that developers can. I don't hold a brief for developers, but if you're paying to have some advice and well, I'm thinking of doing this, and what about that, and what about that, I may not put an application in after having these pre-app discussions, mightn't I? So you going off and advertising it left, right, and centre could be setting hairs running that needn't be running. So, you know, there must be a reason why we don't advertise that we're having pre-app discussions.
Yes, that's right. The pre-apps are confidential, so we couldn't include details of those.
Councillor Baldock.
The amendment is simply para 7.23 to change may to will. The other wider issue is, and the pre-apps comes in the wider issue of we ought to have a discussion about how we address all these issues, but the actual amendment is just 723.
Okay, so we've got a proposer and a seconder for that amendment. Those in favour? Those against? And abstentions? That amendment is carried, members. Thank you. So back to substantive item. Councillor Bundy, do you want to speak on this?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of observations on this. One, in terms of the comments that set out from page on chapter 1 from residents, I know both Councillor Speed and I know certainly one individual on here, Nigel Eric Smith, who absolutely is spot on. I mean, if you want somebody who's got the expertise on something, he for us is a definite go-to person. I was curious, and there's obviously nothing to stop them, as it's a consultation, but I just wonder if we actually, as a borough council, end up also respond to other councils' documents like that, when we've got responses from Canterbury City Council and Tunbridge, planning policy of Tunbridge Wales. This might get a bit of legal gentleman, but what's it got to do with them? But it's their right, I presume, to be able to actually respond to it. But the main point I was going to just comment on is the bullet point 18 about the 3 minutes to speak at planning committee was not sufficient if you were speaking on a major application, and and we've got Robin in here as well, happy to take that to the CWG. My question is, if you're coming as a member of the public to talk on a planning application, that's major for you because it's your planning application you're going to be talking to. We need to be clear in terms of how we define, and I think we've got it on what actually a major is for that benefit, and whether that has any implications. Because I do see, for example, recently with Highstead and other big ones, that actually somebody to speak for 3 minutes on something that majorly significant is not doing ourselves justice, I don't think, from a public image perspective. But we need to find that balance. But I'm happy to take it away with Robin and we'll bring it to the CWG.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Speed.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of small points. On On page 126 at paragraph 3.16, it says the duty to cooperate was introduced by the Localism Act and is embedded in the NPPF. As I understand it, it might be revoked. Therefore, it wouldn't be embedded. I know it's still a legal requirement under the current local plan system, but we need to be aware that that might change, and I'm not sure how often this document would be updated, so maybe just add in the word currently before embedded, so currently embedded, just to reflect the fact it might change. And then the other point is on page 140, under paragraph 7.25, subsection 3, if the application is considered at planning committee, provide applicants, town and parish council representatives of the parish in which the application is situated. Could we change parish to parishes with the ES in brackets, because some applications span more than one parish, and when it goes on to say that one parish council representative may speak, that might be interpreted to mean that only one parish council can speak, not all the parish councils affected. So just a simple change to add parishes instead of parish with the ES in brackets.
That's recommendation.
Sorry?
Recommendation.
That is my recommendation, yes.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Can you just confirm the page number that we're
That was
referencing?
page 140, so it's paragraph 7.25, subsection 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
This isn't actually in line with our constitution, where we say that any parish can speak at the planning committee. So parish and town council representatives of the parish in which the application is situated and those who have commented on the planning application. Well, the current situation is any parish can speak on the planning application. So we need to correct that to reflect that. Can't go against our own constitution.
Well, if I wasn't aware of that, if that is correct, then I would agree with Councillor Baldock and suggest that's amended to say, well, town and parish councils, and delete representatives of the parish in which the application is situated.
Okay, so that's your amended proposal. Councillor Bowen, you seconded it. Those in favour of that amendment? It seems wholly sensible. Yeah, and the first amendment, of course, yeah. Yeah.
Currently embedded, yeah.
Okay, that looks unanimous. Thank you, Ben. You didn't, not quite unanimous. That's carried. We abstention and one with one abstention. Thank you.
That means that the second bit in yellow also has to be corrected. Because it says, noting that one parish council representative, one supporter, one objector and the applicant can speak for each for no longer than 3 minutes. That would have to be corrected to reflect what we've changed as well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, with those amendments... Councillor Worcester.
Just a question, Chair, actually. So I'm not an expert on planning. Quite a lot of times over the last year, the conversation has been brought up around ward councillors' input into 106 discussions around development and things like that. I noticed that's not reflected in this document, and I'm wondering if you could probably highlight the fact that sort of protocol is reflected elsewhere in different council documentation, because myself personally have been seeking input into how ward councillors can have a better engagement and taking their residents' views through to how 106 conversations develop around planning applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to comment?
Thank you. I can't think of anywhere that is enshrined in practice. I can't think of a document that is set out within its best practice that we would do that as appropriate. But I don't believe it's documented anywhere. Whether this is the right place to document it, I guess is something we can debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, I mean, my view is this isn't necessarily the right place to do that, but you're right to raise it, and we can have those further discussions outside of this meeting. So, members, those in favour, just run past that again. Recommendations. This time it is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Anna. We now move on to item 13, which is the customer experience strategy. Andre?
Good evening, everyone. So as introduced, my name is Andre Bowen. I'm the Service Improvement and Project Manager here at Searle Borough Council. One of the projects I've been working on is the Customer Access Strategy Review. The former Customer Access Strategy was written back in 2013 to ensure easy, clear and convenient access to SWAIL services for all. This new Customer Experience Strategy is quite different. While the overarching aims still exist, the way this needs to be achieved needs to be revisited. As in the last decade alone, there's been a shift in local demographics, political control, technological developments, social norms post-COVID-19, Brexit, and soon-to-be devolution. To determine the best solutions within the resources available and the need of our customers. The data on customer contact, costs, provision by other local authorities were reviewed. In addition to that, the views of customers were sought to form this new strategy. That is, there was an initial early engagement workshop for elected members. We consulted officers across the various departments. We consulted our shared building partners. We discussed our area committees and as well as a public consultation. Voluntary and community organizations were also asked to support their groups, share their experiences, and this customer experience strategy consolidates all those views. We found that customers are increasingly demanding faster, more personalized experiences and across various channels. So in response, the proposed strategy outlines a comprehensive approach to enhancing the customer experience by leveraging digital innovation, streamlining service delivery, and aligning operations with emerging trends using real-time data. As such, the recommendations are to introduce this new customer experience strategy in place of the former customer access strategy to match service delivery with trends in customer demands and resources, as well as to note the proposed action plan and delegate authority to the directors of resources and director of regeneration and neighborhoods to take actions to facilitate the required transformation activities. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock, please.
No, thank you. I actually thought Hannah was going to be first, but it is a shame that our financial situation makes us have to view things in this light. However, it does reflect the changes that the demands that we've seen since 2013 and the higher reliance on digital media, I think it's called. So it's just ironic that we've got such a rubbish website and it says make our channels easy to use and understand by making use of the best possible technology. I just don't see that we're going to get our website good enough before we cease to exist. And I don't think it'd be money well spent. I just think we ought to reflect that. And there is a little typo, well, not a typo, bottom of 171. There's I don't know if there's a line missing, but it says, while our move vulnerable customers who are less confident. So there's some words missing, that's all.
Yeah, Lisa.
Thank you. With regards to the website, I hope that you have all seen Phil's invitations to go and talk to him about specific areas of where things either are not working or where it has been reported to you that it's not doing what you think it should do. Because unless we have got those live examples, we can't fix it. So he's offered some drop-in sessions at all various times of the day and some evenings. So please go and show him exactly what it is that you don't like or that doesn't work, so that we can at least try and fix it.
And I think on that note, there's a number of areas like planning, for instance, that it's a different system, and there are intricacies and difficulties with that. But I'm sure, let's say, if we can engage with him, we can resolve a number of those out. Councillor Bowen, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think, again, a couple of observations. I'm going to be. It's going to sound critical. I like the report. I've got no issues with it there. I challenge in terms of the actual presentation of the report as a paper document. There is a huge amount of space within this document that is, I'm going to say probably the wrong word, but wasted. Replace it with something else, with lots of nice glossy pictures. We declared an environment emergency some time ago. We could save a lot of paper if we actually think about pictures that look nice, but they don't really add very much to the content. A minor point. In terms of I was slightly surprised it was as high as 98% have access to a computer or mobile phone. I knew it was going to be high. I didn't think it was going to be quite that high. But on the next part about the 11% confidently using it, and this comes similar to what Councillor Porter was saying, it's one of those. A lot of actually use my own experience as well. My full-time job, most organisations which you go to, at some point somebody will say, "Our website is rubbish." And our website's out of date, and our website doesn't work, and you could replicate that across loads and loads of organisations. I'm not sure there actually is an ever perfect website. There will always be issues because as things move on, things get easier, it changes. It's one of those you could just pour money and money and money. It's a drain. And I get your point also about the planning side. How much control we have over that, or actually we need to be talking to other people to make that. It could be easier, it could be a lot better. The only other observation I would suggest, again, to avoid having to, and I'm not saying this for any particular reason, but the pages, I think it's in one of the appendices that says about the lead officers. My only suggestion on there is actually not to name the lead officer, but actually to put their job titles in. Because if any of the lead officers leave, I'm going to use Lisa as an example. Not saying you are leaving, but if somebody leaves, you're going to have to change a big load of documents. Whereas actually, if it's a generic job title, that does what it says on the tin. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I'm sure that's something we can just take care of outside of the meeting, but I'm well worthy of raising it. Okay, members. Councillor Baldock.
Just going to move the recommendation for you.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. As a dinosaur, I like the paper, I like the charts, I like all the colours. Some of our residents, as I've known this over many, many years, seem to think that we have or should have staff sitting in wherever they're sitting, trawling the internet in case there's any issues, because that's where they report all their stuff. And there have been many times over the years, quite serious stuff, that I've approached officers. I'm not on the, that FB, but there's been a note from Ken Online or somebody, and I go to the officer the next day and they say nothing's been reported to us about somebody injuring themselves here, there or everywhere on our equipment. And that's the sort of incident that people expect. And no, that's not what we're about. You've got a problem, you ring or you contact the appropriate person. I would never support, even if we had loads of staff, I wouldn't support staff sitting in the office trawling through Facebook in case there's any issues we need to pick up. That is not what we're about. You need to take some personal responsibility. Having said that, some of the reports, I'm sitting here trying to think of that phone number that you ring, but it's, as I'm talking, somebody might remember it. I have gone online to report incidents at our place, at fly tipping, whatever. You've got to give your name and address. Now, if it's my next door neighbour, I'd be a bit loath, because I have had this in the past, not personally, but yeah, your neighbours complain that you're fly tipping. The officer did get short shrift, by the way. But there should be an ability to not necessarily anonymise, but just say, no, I do not want my details recorded. And there is a phone number that you used to ring for police type stuff. That's Crime Stoppers, yeah. I always say to people, if you don't want to leave your name, just go on the Crime Stopper number, because that is actually very efficient and it will get through to, and we used to have something here years ago along those lines, but people are more likely to report stuff to us, whatever the shape of the website. If there's a form, if I don't have to fill my details in, I'm going to go and report, oh, there's some fly tipping there, there's this there, there's that there. And we will get a better communication line with our residents. All the time they've got to give their name, rank and serial number. A lot of them aren't going to bother. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So just before I move on from Police 5 and the original Hawaii 5-0, I kind of get that, but with a lot of the stuff, when it goes through the courts, we have to have people's names, addresses and what have you. So that's just the legal system, the way it works. And so that's why, again, when we report things as members, I said, well, actually, it should be the resident reporting it, because it's their evidence, their things. So quite often that has an impact. And I'm just really conscious that Councillor Perkins has been sat there for about 20 minutes waiting to get in, and I've totally ignored her, but Councillor Perkins.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Andre, because I think this bit of work has been really extensive. I think the amount of community involvement and the amount of kind of member input that has gone into it has been really impressive. I think that we can be really sure that the voices of residents have been really considered in creating the new access strategy. I think that there has been lots of work that's gone into understanding how people use our services and how they interact with the council and what we can do to make that better. I understand Councillor Baldock's point about having to kind of think about it within the financial pressures that we find ourselves, but I think there's also an opportunity there to look at money saving through innovation, and not everybody needs that face-to-face investment that we give. Some people are more than capable of going on the internet and reporting it themselves, and we should be able to move people that are able to do that into that space, so then it frees up that interpersonal connection time with the people that really need that service. So I think there's, it's a shame that we're in the position that we're in, but I think it's an opportunity to think outside the box, and we have done that through the customer access strategy. There's just one thing that I wanted to raise slightly and it's very pernickety, in the equality impact assessment. There's none registered on the relevance decision. There's none on sex, and actually we've registered that age disability and ethnicity are all medium, but if you look at the responses to the survey, 66% of the people that responded were women, and it would make sense to, if we're going to look at the impact, the kind of disproportionate impact on the other categories, that when we're getting 66% of people responding that are women, we should probably put that as medium as well, because it's women that end up using the services more than men. I think it's worth just referencing that within the report. But yeah, thanks to everyone that's been involved in it. It's been a good project. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Worcester.
I'd be interested to hear from officers about whether that's correct, really.
Looking at the responses we received, there is a slightly higher proportion of females within SWEL, which we thought represented quite well in the responses. In the impact, would you say there was a neutral impact to gender or sex?
Yeah, I think there's a neutral impact in that there's a neutral impact throughout for all of the protected characteristics, but I think it's worth picking up that we've picked up that there is a medium relevance to age, age and disability and ethnicity. I think we should probably pick up there's a medium relevance to women as well. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Worcester.
2 points, Chair. I'd absolutely support Councillor Perkins' point of view on that. I had a really worrying statistic on, oddly enough, Radio 4 this week, saying that the average age for diagnosis of ADHD for a male is 6 years old, where the average age for diagnosis for ADHD for a woman is 30. So I absolutely believe that those sort of things do have an impact on bits of work that we're doing like this, which brings me back to a bit of an ask. On the action plan, high-level action plan, Appendix 2, there is an element there that says transform the work of customer-facing and back-office teams, reducing the administrative task and focusing them on providing more customer-centric service. And I was wondering if we could have that as a more forthcoming priority, because the majority of the issues that I encounter is that some abilities need lots of different ways of reporting, and sometimes they can need different ways of reporting the same thing. So, for example, if there is a problem that's facing a resident that covers 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 bits of information, sometimes that is very difficult to process online, because it takes an inordinate amount of time. You need the verbal support of somebody to work that through with you. And I do test lots of ways of reporting through to Swale Borough Council. And I probably find that, for example, our customer-facing areas, so our front desks at Swale House, at Sheppey Gateway, absolutely lack any warmth in terms of how people interact. So, for example, lots of banks at the moment use interactive portals. There's staff on hand to run people through training of how basically to interact with online portals, which would cut our work down and cut our reporting for members of staff down in the long run, if that makes sense. And I think that we're quite behind on the way that other organisations help with engagement, if that makes sense. But I've got absolutely fantastic reports of our customer services teams that are on the telephone, and I've got to say, whenever I've rung up with a process issue or an issue that I've got to talk through, I find them incredibly knowledgeable and creative in their approach. So anything that we can do to streamline or use technology to help staff and systems free up their creative time to be able to problem solve better and faster and recognise the creativity in those roles, I'd be very much in favour of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that this is one of the priorities, that actions that is down to me. and the transformation work of any of our teams has a long lead-in time, unfortunately. It's not something that can be done immediately. And we can't do them all at the same time either. So I'm not sure that we can bring that one forward. But any quick wins, of course, we will do that. But the stuff that's going to take a lot of resource to either redesign the services or introduce new systems, unfortunately, I don't think we can do that much quicker.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt, please.
Thank you. I've got a concern. I think the actual document, all the work that's been done is really good, and it's really gets us to know exactly what we need to be doing. But I do have a concern over the action plan and the dates, and I know that what's just been said about the time needing to get things done. But for instance, ensure customers are informed of what to expect at every stage through communication that is clear, up to date, accurate and timely. Due date, Q2 2027. Surely something like that is what we should be doing anyway. Now, every communication that we do, we should be updating people and telling them what's happening. So I wonder where some of these dates are coming from to be able to get to like 2 years' time to be able to do some of this stuff. Going through, just looking at some other ones here, what was there? Ensure services are easily accessible, inclusive and address diverse equalities needs, Q4 2027. So we haven't got to worry for a couple of years to make sure that services are accessible. Yeah, and then we've gone anyway. So I'm just a bit concerned with some of these dates. Surely some of these can be done a bit sooner because they're things that we should be doing anyway already.
Okay, thank you. And I think many of them we are, quite frankly. I'd be surprised if we weren't. Andre?
Yep. So we are doing as much as we can within our resources, but we have, from feedback we've received, I think our customers would like us to do better. And as such, it does require reviewing all services, which is one of the reasons why it is quite challenging. Some of the action items don't require reviewing every service, maybe just a smaller area. Also, we have limited resources to actually go ahead with making all the action in all the items in the action plan, and we want to be realistic in terms of the resources we have. We are trying to gather as much support as we can from all departments to ensure that the items are achieved. But we have also highlighted in terms of priorities which ones we do want to finish as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of kind of to add to what Lisa and Andre have said, because it's a programme approach in terms of going through every part of the council. Some services may be completed by March next year, for example, where others, but this is sort of like the completion of the whole action. And because this is the high level action plan, we spent actually a meeting this afternoon going through the detailed operational action plan, and there's lots of things that we can tick off, but we need to tick it off like 34 times or something because of the different teams and things like that. It just takes time to do it properly and comprehensively. But I think we obviously need to bring back updates to the strategy and looking at that progress and how we report that back. I mean, one of the elements is about how we report more regularly, how we collect information from our residents on an annual basis, to constantly inform and innovate on that as well. So we might learn something from the first tranche that we need to go and do again differently to the others. So it is a continual programme, but we obviously need some accountability, which is why the dates are for the completion of the programmed work, if that helps to clarify.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. On the forward on page 155, I wonder if we'd update Councillor Perkin status as she's the chair of the committee and get the right committee's name down. Only a minor thing. I think the action plan's quite vague. I know it's a high-level action plan, but residents want to see the details of our planned improvements, especially as this is such an important strategy. I don't see the feedback from area committees in the report, which includes town and parish councils and ward councillors. We at Sheppey Area Committee provided plenty of feedback. I want to see us using chat box to direct people to the right form or the right email address. One of the feedbacks we got was late night call centre, perhaps one day a week. I think we should be introducing a callback option. Doctors' surgeries do it, banks do it. I think that would help manage the call flow rather than say we get a rush at 10 o'clock every morning. If you can manage it out, call them back over the day. Digital chats, one person can be managing 3 or 4 different customers at the same time. I think we need to be opening up about sharing the csc@swale.gov.uk email address, or even we could have hello@swale.gov.uk. And that's what lots of organisations are moving to now. I think we need to, I don't think we share our email address enough. I know we want them to use the forms and they won't give us all the details we want on the first contact from them because if they're not filling out the form, but we can send them the form or we can drag the details out of them. I think people should be able to book face-to-face appointments with customer services. I'd really like to see an app. I proposed that 6 years ago. Maybe it's not something for us, but for the next council, we should make that a key priority. I think 2 years to achieve high priority items is, it's a shame it's going to take so long. I'd love for residents to be able to track online through their reference number, their issues. With KCC Highways, you type in your reference number and it will give you some vague detail of apparently they've contacted you. I think, as been said, we need an annual report, at least in the first year to see how this bedding in, or at least until this action plan's complete. So I'd like to propose that we include an action plan.
We do have an action plan.
I'd like to propose that we have an annual report on the action plan.
Yeah, there's got to be a reporting back for us.
I suppose it's not necessarily explicit. It's not a recommendation. Yeah. Bring it back.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we've got a proposal and seconder for that amendment to say that we, or an additional recommendation that we report back annually on progress. Those in favour? That looks like unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Now we come back to the substantive element of it, and Councillor Wise.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was going to raise the point as well that Councillor Jay's made about area committee feedback, because we had quite a good conversation at the Sittingbourne Area Committee about this as well. And there are, you know, we're using the area committees to get public feedback, and we had quite a good conversation about it. So that was one of the points I was also going to make. In the responses document, some of the sample responses I think capture, I think, 2 of the issues that we experience with our sort of customer experience quite well. One is about the confirmation about actions, or even confirmation that your issue's being dealt with. I think a lot of the time stuff is happening, or it might have even been sorted, and people don't know. So they then spend time, their own time and officer time, chasing these things up, often by email, which then becomes more of an admin task, and it truncates this whole customer engagement process, particularly when it comes to things like council tax changes, or all of, I've had it myself trying to update stuff with that. Silence, not sure whether anything's sorted, contact the council again to find out whether it's happened, then go back onto my account, it's all been sorted, but there's been no communication in the meantime. So I think there are certain things we have to do that will sort of reduce the amount of follow-up engagement that people have to have. That would really help with some of the objectives we're trying to do about eliminating some of those tasks, so that the staff can really focus on the customer-focused engagement. And the other bit is about the other sample response that's included here is about making sure that things online are user-friendly. A really good example is the fly tip form that we have now. If you have taken a picture on your smartphone and you go to upload it, they're nearly always too large. So then you have to go back into your pictures to edit it. Most people don't bother. Yeah, so then they will either call the council up now, or they'll email it over to their councillor, who then emails it over to the customer service centre, and so that form ends up being bypassed. So whenever we do these sorts of things, we really have to make sure that they are as user-friendly as possible. So I think that is captured in the actions we want to do, but we really have to make sure on an operational level we're considering these things when we roll them out, because I do agree that getting people to use forms where you get all the information you need up front is the best way to make sure that those issues are dealt with as quickly as possible, and people will then see that and use that more if we've made that as easy as possible for them. I don't think we always do. And then the third point, I don't think the website's necessarily poor. I think you're struggling to find any council that's got a good website. The issue is that whenever people use search engines to find something on the council's website, it very often throws up outdated stuff. And I know this has been raised by members in other meetings with examples given. I think something really needs to be done about that, because the website itself, most things are only a couple of clicks away, so it is actually good on that measure. But if you are using a search engine, really outdated stuff can get thrown up sometimes. And again, I think people just give up and think, what's the point? And again, then they will want to ring up or email over or contact their councillor. So I think when we look through those actions, I don't think there's any issues with the actions that are spelled out in this document. I think they're good, and I'm sure that what sits underneath them will be detailed operational plans to capture this. But I think we just need to be assured that there are some of these things that we're quoting here in the sample of responses that really capture the essence of the stuff that we need to get right. Then they should be stuff that in quite a lot of the areas that people want to engage with the council about the services they do use, hopefully we can change those ones quite quickly, and then there will be obviously more complicated areas that these changes can then be looked into over a longer lead-in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Andre, did you want to comment or?
Appreciate the comments.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me come in twice. I just wanted to kind of speak about the "we're not going to be here in a couple of years" argument, which I appreciate is depressing and sad for us all. But I think it is really important that we have an up-to-date strategy which illustrates how people in Swale expect to be communicated with their council. That gives us really good kind of building blocks to take into any kind of discussion of what the unitary looks like and how the unitary is going to communicate with residents. So I think it's really positive to be able to take that understanding that we've worked with residents to make their customer experience a really good one into whatever the iteration of local government looks like when we're not here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know if we're going to print this out and hand it out or if people are able to access it, but if they are, I really think the customer access strategy survey from shared facility partners ought to be condensed to one page, because on 6 replies, you've got pages of 100% think everything's great at the gateway, and it's like one customer, and it's a business or something. So I just think that looks a bit distorted.
In the right way. and in my opinion, of course. Okay. Members, could I have a proposer then for the recommendations and the additional recommendation? Councillor Perkin, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Baldock. Those in favour? That's unanimous again, members. Thank you very much indeed. We've got 2 more items. I think I won't call a halt to proceedings. We'll see how we get on with these. So the next one is agenda. Thank you, Andre. Agenda item 14, which is a sign-off of the Community Governance Review Terms of Reference for Swale.
Thank you, Chair. It was agreed by Council on the 30th of July this year to undertake a community governance review, along with the establishment of a cross-party member steering group. Community governance reviews provide the opportunity for principal councils, of which that is Swale Borough Council, to review and make changes to community governments within their areas, which may include creating, merging, altering or abolishing parish and town councils, their naming, their electoral arrangements or grouping. The member steering group has met and has developed the draft terms of reference shown within the appendix within your report. A number of approaches have already been made for consideration as part of this review. However, the steering group felt that it would be very important for there to be an opportunity for a swale-wide review to take place. As such, existing town and parish councils have been contacted to invite them to put forward proposals, and the member steering group will consider these as part of a wider assessment of which proposals to then take forward to the first consultation stage. The timescales for CGR have also been outlined within the terms of reference, with the review needing to have been completed within 12 months of the agreement of the terms of reference. It is therefore asked for this committee to agree the terms of reference and recommend them to Council for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Chairman. In the absence of the chair of this committee, I'll speak as the vice chair to say that this is, we analysed this in detail in a cross-party working group. We suggest changes. Those changes have been adopted. I think this is a good set of terms of reference that will enable us to do the best job we can as a council. So I'm happy to propose them or propose a recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. To echo Councillor Baldock on this one, a lot of thought and consideration has been given by the working group to ensure that all parts of the borough have the opportunity to request change, rectify anomalies, and ensure that the most local form of local government is fit for purpose and fit for the future. The TROs allow for the broadest possible engagement across the borough in the early stage, which is the right thing to do. Let's make sure that everyone has that opportunity to have a parish or town council, if they wish or not, that represents their views, and also ensures that we're not waiting on, let's face it, a potential unitary council that's going to be far too big and doing far too much far too early on to be concerned around whether there's enough parish councillors in Borden to represent the number of people that are there following the Wisest Lane development or not. Absolutely. For example, or anywhere else for that matter. So fully endorse what's been put forward here, and I look forward to everybody supporting it.
Thank you. So it's been proposed by Councillor Baldock, seconded by Councillor Wise. Councillor Harrison? No. Did you? Oh, you're just getting ready for the vote. So I'll move to the vote. Those in favour? Once again, that's unanimous, members. Thank you very much. And we move on to the last item of business this evening, agenda item 15, which is the Performance Monitoring Report 2025-26, Quarter 2.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. This report represents the performance for Quarter 2, providing the committee with an overview of how multiple council services have performed over the past quarter. The report begins on page 221 of the agenda pack, with the main content presented in Appendix 1 on page 224 and Appendix 2 on page 228. Page 224 provides a performance summary of 28 indicators, 18 reported monthly and 10 reported quarterly. However, as referenced on page 221 in 2.3, the committee asked to note that the data for 2 waste performance indicators in August and September is unavailable at the time of drafting this report, as KCC have yet to publish the information. Therefore, currently 26 indicators are available. At the time the report was compiled, the performance status of these indicators were as follows: 4 red, 17%, 3 amber, 13%, and 19 green, so 70% of indicators achieved target. Below the performance summary table is the performance data for the past 8 quarters. Whilst this year's figure is lower than last year's, it remains within the consistent trend of figures in the 70s to 80s range as observed over the previous quarters. Below the previous quarterly performance data is the monthly indicators table covering the past 12 months for comparison. Section 2 of the appendix found on page 225 and outlines Quarter 2 red and amber indicators. Red indicators are where the outcome is more than 5% deviation from the target value. You can see of the 4 red commentary, one of these indicators relate to waste. There is also 1 amber indicator, and amber is where it is within 5% or less deviation from the target value. Page 226 presents the Quarter 1 and quarter outcomes, which includes a month-by-month breakdown. The 2 blacked out boxes is the missing information I referenced earlier at the time of the reporting. Moving on to page 227, you can see within the first quarterly performance indicator table, quarter 2 remains green, bar 1 amber, which is referenced on page 225. The remaining tables present both monthly and quarterly non-targeted monitored for interest purposes performance indicators, or MPIs, for the last 2 quarters. At the time of the report was published, the figures for all crime per 1,000 population were not available. However, I can now advise, according to the data provided, the updated figure for quarter 2 is 94.76. I wish to draw your attention to page 228, which is Appendix 2, which has proposed amendments for 26-2027 performance indicators. It is the recommendation for the percentage of delegated decisions to be removed, and for refused planning applications has 3 options available, which include retain the indicator in its current form, remove the indicator, or rename and refocus to record refusals contrary to officer advice. And the final one, it is the recommendation for major applications with extension of time to be added and to be a supplement to the existing indicator for major applications processed within 13 weeks. That concludes the report. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison, please.
Thank you, Chair. On that last point, I would be quite happy to prepare. I'm happy that the first one is removed, the third one is added, and the one in the middle where there's 3 choices, rename and refocus to record refusals contrary to officer advice, because refusals that go along with officer advice are neither here nor there. So I would propose that we have that. I put my hand up to speak because I have been involved in this performance review ever since I've been on this council. We actually had a separate subcommittee on this. They used to take 3 hours every time. On the missed recycling refuse, food and garden bins, that is never going to hit the target. It is skewing the data. So I would like us to look at, I can recall discussions, no, just because you didn't hit it, we're not lowering the target for you, you just have to try harder next year. But in this instance, we know we had major issues with the contract. We know just about every officer in the council was helping out on this. And in order that unless we're going to take it out and say, well, it's going to be skewed for the rest of the year, it's skewing everything else, it's never going to hit the target because of those problems right at the start. I would see an argument for actually starting from when it did start almost running properly, because there's people going to be moaning, saying I'm still having problems, but by and large, 90% of the contract is working very well, sometimes even better than the last time in some areas. So, as I say, where you've got skewed data, I think that we ought to have some way of dealing with it. But as I say, I've made that proposal for the others. Thank you.
Yeah, we can take that one away and work with the service who own the indicator.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin, please.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a question, and it might just be because I'm not used to this report. On page 226, the speed of processing new housing / council tax benefit claims has been read for some time. What's the reason for that, and is there things being done to improve that situation?
So on page 225, there's the explanation of what is happening with those claim forms, and the table that you referred to on page 226. So the September figure was actually green, but the cumulative position is still making it red. So it is improving, and it is the year-to-date figure is 25.5 days. So it's 3 days. It's not 3 months.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right, first, page 225, the planning enforcement, informing complainant within 21 days. I mean, I understand the explanation here, 5 down to 4, annual leave, blah, blah. But this was this quarter, last quarter. It just seems a consistent thing. And not informing people when you've raised an enforcement issue triggers a whole load of, extra work. Because they ring, they get in touch with us and said, oh, we complained about this, nothing's been done. So we then have to get on and say, why hasn't anything been done? Why do we struggle to just tell people within 21 days we've been out to the site or we're going to go out to the site? It's an email. I just struggle why just that simple courtesy of getting back and saying something within 3 weeks we struggle with. So I'm a bit disappointed about that. On page 226, bit concerned about all these planned sicknesses we're looking at next January and March. I can understand January because of New Year, but I don't know what happens in March, but we've got all these expected sick days, but I guess that, I don't know. I'm probably misunderstanding that.
Yeah, that's last year's data.
Just left in?
Yes, so that you can see what
was
last year's. Would you be interested? Clearly not. We could take it out.
No, it's fascinating. Now I know. I'll be really looking forward to seeing that we don't have too much New Year excitement. On this proposed stuff at the end, now refused planning applications, there is a national target. There is supposed to be a national target that we look at, so I don't see why we can't have it. The head of service does not view it as a valuable performance measure. I think it's very valuable to know the percentage of refused planning applications. It is it's easy to collect, and it also helps us rebut arguments that just say, oh, Swale refuse everything. It's like, well, no, actually, look, if you see our figures, we give them permission for over 90% of stuff. So I think we should retain the indicator in its current form, but we could also add the third one so that we can have 2 measures. So I would be happy to propose that we retain the indicator because I think it's useful, and to second Councillor Harrison's proposal that we add the third one.
Thank you.
So I have some information on the refused planning application. So the reason why we don't think it's bringing any value is that everything is case specific, and so each application is judged on its own planning merits, and it's not necessarily the best way to measure performance. What we do have to provide to MHCLG is applications granted. So and this is a management performance indicator, not a key performance indicator. So it's whether what we could do is report the applications granted instead, which is obviously the
percentage granted rather than the percentage not granted.
Yeah, so then that, well, I'm assuming it's percentage, but it's the data that we have to report to MHCLG. I would suggest we replace it with that, so we're only doing something once.
Well,
the same data.
If it's that difficult to work out the gap between granted from 100 and not granted from 100. Yeah, because it's only an either or, and it's as a percentage, it's going to be from 100, isn't it? So if it's 91% granted and 9% refused, whichever way you give it, it ain't going to make no difference. We can still see it.
Right. Yeah, I think the point is that the refusal is not necessarily the best way to report it.
So you think? So it's thought that percentage granted is better than percentage refused.
Well, that's what we report to MHCLG.
Well, if that's how you want to present it, as long as we retain that, I'm happy with that, and I'm happy to add the rename and refocus contrary. The extra one to record contrary to officer advice. I'm not sure that's going to be a percentage of or what a number of, but I think percentages are important in this. So if I've got a seconder.
Can we just have some clarity for the record? Councillor Baldock, thank you.
Yeah, my proposal is
nice and easy, it's just the steam's going off the pen again.
Oh, sorry. My proposal is that we retain the indicator in its current form, whether it be percentage whether it be presented in percentages granted or percentages refused, either way is fine. And that we add a measure to record refusals contrary to officer advice. That is going to be a tiny number because it's only going to count those that go to committee that didn't go with the officer's advice. So it's going to be a tiny number, but if that's what they would like to add, I'm happy to add that as well.
Thank you, Chair. Some of these may have already been answered by Lisa on her last or previous comment. I was similar to Councillor Baldock. So is every figure on terms of page 226, the estate overview sheet, everything from October 25 through to March 26 are actually the figures from October 24 to March 25? Because that really isn't clear. That should have been, yeah. That explains some of it, because looking at the bin collection, you go, wow. Because hang on a minute, I thought we'd passed all of that. But so that kind of gets there, but it does really skew the understanding or the reading of this report. Well, I hope we don't get back to those figures. But it's when they're actually listed under the January 26 elements. The abandoned calls and percentage of abandoned calls, and that then makes sense. And I'm reading the rationale and the reasons for it. I hope that they doesn't necessarily repeat itself. The one I'm not quite clear on, and this may be me being a bit daft, not for the first time. Page 227, complaints responded to within 10 working days. I'm trying to figure out, the target is 90%. Q4 projected, again, so this has been Q4 2024.
Q4 actuals, none of these are projections.
Right, okay, so that's 75.9. So the outcome is 56.87, but the target, I don't get how we get to that 56.87 when the previous quarters were green, were looking okay. There's one amber and the rest, the two, I presume, are greens. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt. Oh, you've changed your mind now. Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm looking back to that speed of processing new housing / council tax benefit. Is there some merit in splitting that out? Because I'm thinking in terms of certainly what my firm would do, we would be looking at to support people with complex new housing benefit claims. It is understandably very complex, whereas quite often the council tax benefit claim similar to that is not as complex. So I'm thinking, would that give us a better picture of where we need to look at resource going forward, potentially? Not that we necessarily have more resource.
Sorry, Chair. Again, I'll take that away. It really does depend how the team are configured and how the cases are picked up. So I will take that away.
Thank you. Councillor Jays.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, is there any other data we send off to MHCLG that isn't presented in this? Because I think it'd be good if we send it off to if it's good enough for government, it should be good enough to come for PNR. And my other question is on page 224. I may have missed this in the introduction. In quarter 4 of 24 to 25, did we really achieve 100% greens, 0 reds, and 0 yellows? or ambers. In the quarterly indicators, it says, I read that as 100% and everything else 0-0. And the same for quarter 2 of 23-24. 100%.
Yeah. Was on. Whoops. Kirsty, have you got that report to hand? You wouldn't have. So we'll look that up and come back.
Thank you.
Can I just say with it, we did do a thorough review of all of the performance indicators, and there were working groups for last year. So most of our indicators are based on what we do to MHCLG, so that we don't have to do anything twice or do things differently. So we can make it clear of the ones that we collect, which one. I think the coding tells you whether it's a proper indicator or a local indicator, but we can add that to the next report to show you what we do. And if it's reported to MHCLG, you could always look it up on their website.
I think their website's worse than ours.
We will take that as a win.
Excellent. So, members, proposed by Councillor Baldock, seconded by Councillor Boyne. As amended, of course. Those in favour? That's unanimous again, members. Thank you all very much indeed. Wish you all a safe journey back, and strap in for the next one. Yeah.